It's Tuesday, 31st of August, 2021. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast. On tonight's show, we are doing the deadline day. It's deadline day. Closes in 3 hours, so we're going to be covering that and also Millwall and Blackpool at the weekend. And I'm John Aspinall. This is the Seasiders podcast, match reaction show, Millwall 2, Blackpool 1, and deadline day.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Good evening and welcome back to the Seasiders podcast. Seems like we've been off air for quite a while, but it's not been that long really. This evening, welcome Walk and Talk, welcome Matt, welcome Jordan Hayes, that is, not Gabriel. Hey Nick, great day of business for the Seasiders thus far, and welcome back. Actually, it's been a while since you've been on.
Yes, I've been away for a couple of weeks, walking in the Yorkshire Dales with a couple of pints in and some nice, pretty much what I'll be doing in my retirement basically for the last 2 weeks. It's been very nice, yeah, but good to be back. And like you say, a good transfer deadline day so far, but I'm sure every time my phone lights up I keep looking, hoping that attacking midfield is going to be joining.
Has your spiky hair been flattened by wearing a hat too much while out walking or something?
No, it's
weren't you spiking it in the green room before, Nick? Does the spike indicate, the level of spikedness indicate how happy you are on
with transfer deadline? It's probably about that.
Brannigan signs.
Oh, it's going it's going through the roof. I don't think he's going to, by the sound of it, but we live in hope anyway. I'm sure there's other. Well, I'm hoping there's other irons in the fire anyway. We need to get Bison's happy. If Bison's is happy. We've had the most unbelievable transfer deadline.
By that
day.
Comment that's just dropped in, Nick, the answer to that question is a big fat no. Tim Bison's saying 3 hours to save the season. So a man not over enamoured with our signings, but it's not been that bad so far.
No, and like he says, there is
3
hours to go. I think we all got a bit giddy, didn't we, this morning with all this apparently rather mischievous and incorrect talk of Brannigan being at the stadium, which was quite widely reported. And we thought it was a done deal, and it's looking like we're a little way apart, and it's perhaps not going to happen. But we're holding our hopes on the fact that he's not playing tonight. So for Oxford, but let's see what happens. I suspect there's a few surprises to come out. Yeah, I suspect at least
have they got a league game tonight then?
No, they've got that trophy game, haven't they? So he probably wouldn't have been playing anyway. It might have been second string. Okay.
Mark Tunis,
we'll grasp anything at this moment in time.
Yeah. Where is your dress? That was in relation to the tweet that I put out. I said it's a shame Natalie Sawyer isn't joining us in the studio, but if it helps our viewing figures, maybe Tim will wear a yellow dress.
I've got tangerine t-shirt
at work, haven't you?
I have only finished work at 7 o'clock. So,
Mitch, welcome. How's life in Lancaster?
It's all right. I commented on your tweet. I think I bring enough glamour anyway, so we don't need to get Tim cross-dressing.
We've got black skulls. You do need Natalie Sawyer in a tight yellow dress, eh?
Absolutely.
We've got Steve Day on the. Steve is my Oxford supporting friend. There's been a few bit of bants going around on our little group today about Brannigan joining. Sadly, it's not happening. Or is it? Right, let's go on with the show. Tim, you were the only member of this crew who went to Millwall at the weekend.
I'm still recovering.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone about that? A fun trip down there with Boss.
Yeah, I was with my youngest, Elliot, and Ashley Knowles, a.k.a. Polton Bus, a.k.a. Tory Corner, whatever you want to call him. and my
there are other names out there been made.
There was a few names out there, and also my girlfriend's my daughter's boyfriend.
Oh, don't tell Mrs. Tim! Don't tell Mrs. Tim! You've let the cat out of the bag.
You can tell I'm still recovering from Saturday. So
He's like Tony Soprano, Nick, isn't he?
It was a rather boozy affair, to say the least, and yeah, I'm being of a certain vintage. Drinking copious amounts of alcohol doesn't go down as well as it used to do. So, but yeah,
you made the trip to the Den, didn't you? One of a few hundred.
We let the train do the strain, as they say, and got the 8:30 out of Poulton, and sort of got there about 12 o'clock, which is good timing. Hit Borough Market, which was never been there before, to be honest, and it was I really enjoyed it. We went to Bunch of Grapes, and it was a cracking time. Had a bit of food. For those who don't know, it's like right under the Shard, so that sort of gives you an idea where it is. And it's literally a hop, skip, and a jump there to Millwall, so it's quite handy. It's 5 minutes on the train from London Bridge. So I've not been to the Den before, so I was quite keen, even though I know it's meant to be, it's not got a great reputation. I was quite keen to do it just to knock it off the list, so to speak. And I had the great privilege of walking down Coward's Alley, as it's known.
Pray tell to the uninitiated.
The uninitiated. Well, obviously, Millwall have a certain reputation, I think it's fair to say. And in order to protect us more delicate souls from other clubs, they have effectively created a route to the ground from the train station that makes sure you don't come into contact with anybody from Millwall. And it's locally known as Coward's Alley. So basically, you come off the train and effectively it's hedged off and everything quite high, and there's like one route in and one route out, and there's no chance whatsoever of any Millwall coming into contact with you. So as long as you manage to negotiate the train without getting your head kicked in, the theory is you should be okay.
Howard Turner's just said, did they kettle you at the end? What does that mean?
That's keep you in, I presume, isn't it? No, they didn't. Okay. We thought they were going to be honest, but they didn't. So it was really good. So it was like quite good for getting in and out, to be fair. And we managed to make that the 6:06 train back. So skipping ahead a bit, but it was back in Poulton for 9. So it was a right result. Yeah. So let's
move on to the team that was picked then for the day. Just get this up quickly. It was Maxwell Conley, Ekpiteta Keogh, Garbett Dougal, Reece James, Bowler, Anderson, Yates, and Lavery. Anyone got any comments on that before we skirt over the game?
Yates and Lavery up front, I think, was the one that really stood out to me. And Husband not playing was I think they were probably the two things that I thought of when I first saw the team. I think I've been quite keen on seeing Yates and Lavery start together. I know there's a school of thought that the two similar. I think having two bundles of energy up front, both snapping at the heels of the defence, is not a bad tactic to work with. And my immediate reaction, we're going on to discuss the game, was it worked quite well. Husband missing was a bit of a surprise. I think that came a bit left field, didn't it? I don't think we actually know what was up with him. I know he's obviously got a bit of an injury, but I've not actually heard anything or seen anything official as to what's wrong. But it was a bit of a loss, as it turned out, in my view.
Mm. So, right, just to the room then. We're not going to go through minute by minute the game itself, but we're just going to go through the key points. So, Mitch, did you manage to catch the highlights, and what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I've watched the whole thing.
I watched
the whole thing, so yeah. Well, I think
sending off then.
The sending off is the obvious one. My view on it, I don't know what other people think. My view on it is when I saw it, I thought, oh yeah, first view, that's red. And then when I saw the replays, I thought it was very harsh. It looked on first view as if it looked a little bit like the penalty we got at Bournemouth, where sort of the player he kind of got his legs between the forward's legs and tripped him. But then when you watch the replays, it was really, really faint. It was a little tug at best. And if anything, I thought Connolly kind of got tangled up as their player went down. I thought it was harsh, and I thought it was, it was very harsh. It was a red. Was Keogh covering? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe 50-50. But yeah, that was my take on it.
So, Tim, I guess you can't have a great vantage point, can you, from where you are? Because when I've been to Millwall, you're up in that second tier, aren't you, behind the goal? So
yeah, and it was at the opposite end as well.
Down
so
one end, yeah.
I've watched it back. To be fair, I've only just watched it back this evening for the first time because I've been a bit busy since I came back, and I've got to say, I think it was a red. I think he touches him. And the problem is, and he might have gone down like a sack of spuds, but he touches him. He's clean through. I did look at where the Keogh was covering. I don't think he was close enough. And I think, to be fair to Critchley, I don't think, whilst we might talk about other decisions the ref made during the course of the game, which were frankly beyond understanding, I think with that one, I can understand why he did it. And so I'm not going to be too critical. The disappointing thing is that, you've travelled down there, you've spent a bit of money, and the game's effectively not ruined, but it was as a spectacle. It was changed. I think we'd have won the game with 11 players on the pitch. And what I will say is that Millwall is shocking, and it's disappointing to come away with the result that we ultimately did. And if you're going to get players sent off 13th minute, whatever it is, it's not great, is it? Because you're going to be on the back foot for the rest of the game. And although, to be fair, on a positive slant, we tried to keep playing football, and the only football that was really what I would call football that was really played on Saturday was played by us. So I thought I'd take some encouragement from that. I thought some of our players were exceptional.
Mitch, let's come over to you quickly. The first half itself, how do you think that played out in terms of how we reacted to that sending off?
Well, I think the other talking point I took from the game really was the team spirit that we showed. I thought that the Bournemouth game we covered in a lot of detail, and I think that was a real triumph of sort of spirit over a situation. And I thought this was very similar, if not even more so, because I felt like initially thought, here we go, and I just thought that. I thought Keshi was superb. I thought, Jerry dropped into almost like left midfield, didn't he? And I think he put such a shift in an unfamiliar position. Lavery was just belting round, sort of doing the work of two. Marvin was imperious at the back. It's almost too long ago for me to kind of go through individual incidents in the first half, but I remember just being struck by that, that feeling of, oh, here we go, and then just being really impressed when we didn't go that way. And I think particularly Anderson stood out because he's a player that I'm not always. I don't always quite get why people think Anderson's going to be the key this year, but I thought he was superb, and I thought he really led with his willingness to just try stuff. He went on one galloping run that was just impossible, and he lost the ball 3 times and won it back 3 times, and he really set the tone. And that was that. I don't know if that's particularly first half, but that was my big positive, I think.
Tim, if you just look to the comments, there's a couple of people talking about a penalty incident, the Stonewall pen we've had turned down. Josh has put that. I know someone else has put it as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. When that was. Bear in mind, obviously, when you're in the ground, it's not necessarily always a great vantage point as compared with perhaps watching it back or watching it however you managed to do it.
I don't remember that either. I'd like somebody to actually say sort of when or what or who it was on, and it might trigger something, but I don't remember a Stonewall penalty.
There was a superb I thought that, as an example of Lavery's enthusiastic approach to the game, I thought he was very unlucky when he beat the defender the defender passed the ball back, he nipped in and he chipped the keeper and it just went wide. And as we're going to go on perhaps to speak about, I thought, Bowler's contribution to the goal that saw us take the lead was frankly, I'd pay to be honest, that was worth the entrance money just to watch that. I just love him as a player. He's fantastic.
I think what was really impressive about Bowler was, again, he wasn't quite with it early on. He'd sort of run into some blind alleys and he'd lost the ball a few times, but his head doesn't go down. I am well documented in my mourning for the loss of Mr. Kaikai, but Bowler's just a different kettle of fish in the terms of he just shows up. He can be really poor for 45, 50 minutes, and then he'll just keep doing the same thing. He's got so much self-belief, and yeah, that was just a beautiful goal.
And if you look at it, we've got Ekpiteta, who actually does a great defend. I mean, there's only the three of them involved. Ekpiteta clears the ball. Bowler picks it up right on the edge of our area, and he just runs at them, and he goes through one, and then he goes through another, then he goes through another, and then he does like a slide rule pass through to Lavery, who really shows a turn of pace just to give him the opportunity to get the shot off. Keeper saves it, and then but he hasn't given up. He's first to his feet and managed to bag it into an empty net. So, I mean, it was, to be honest, watching it back, it made me really appreciate what a great team goal it was and how effective a counter-attacking move it was as well. It was just, I could watch it again and again.
As UNZ just put there, Bowler equals baller. Nick, have you seen I've just watched the extended highlights. I guess you've seen them as well. Bowler, as the two have just said, looked like he beat about 4 players to me.
He did, yeah. I've literally just say I was at a do, so I've only seen what was on Quest on the highlights. But yeah, when I saw it, I rewound it and watched it again because it was that good from Bowler. The way he just kept running, and fantastic skill and a great ball. And like we said, Lavery he just never gives up, does he? With that determination, and it's just like going back to the red card. My view on it, I think it was very, very soft, but at the same time, nowadays any contact they go down and refs they give it, don't they? And I think if it was at the other end, we'd probably all be screaming for it and saying, yeah, it was a red. So. And like you say, Critch didn't complain, so it was probably fair enough. But yeah, from what I've read, it was just fantastic determination and effort from the 10 players on the pitch. And it gives you encouragement, doesn't it? Similarly to the second half at Bournemouth, where there was a real effort. So yeah.
Oh yeah, Tim. Moving on to the equaliser from the highlights I've seen. I think it was down your end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
More of a bit of a nothing foul from Jerry. He just kind of jumped the ball with led-ish with his elbow, made the ever slight contact with the opposing player, and again that he's gone down like a sack of spuds.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I think, and I haven't been able to see the actual course and the highlights I've seen, it will go straight to the free kick, but my immediate reaction at the time was that wasn't a foul. That's what I thought. Yeah, it was a repeating theme, to be honest, right through the game. I mean, there's one situation where one of their players absolutely took out one of ours, and to be fair, I can't remember who it was now. And I believe the commentators even said, like, he let us play on because we had an advantage, and now he'll now come back and card it. He doesn't. He just lets it play, and listen, I'm not a massive one for giving the refs all the stick, but I thought his performance overall on the day was appalling. It really was. He was one of the worst I've ever seen. But it was all one way rather than it being, sometimes you get a bad ref for both teams, don't you? But it just seemed to be a bad one for us. But I watched the free kick back, and I think there was some criticism as to whether we were jumping to try, and did we have the wall lined up right? Did we have the taller players on the end of the wall? But to be fair, I think sometimes you've got to take a step back and just say it was a great free kick, which is what I thought it was. It's 22 yards out, and he's hit it really, really well right into the top corner. And I'm not sure it's Maxwell's fault. I'm not sure it's the wall's fault. I just think it's a good free kick, And Josh is saying in the perhaps the wall's a bit too far back. Perhaps it was, so maybe that's given him a little bit more room to work with. I didn't really pick up on that, but I just looked back and thought that's a good goal, and you've got to take that one on the chin. It's about the only thing they did all game that had a decent level of skill in it, because the rest of it was just lumping the ball into the box at every single opportunity, and it was very Neolithic, their approach to the game, I've got to say.
Got one in. No Sean to contend with today, Tim.
Right. Well, I to be honest, it was off the spur. I wasn't planning that one. So, but yeah, it was.
That's what we want, the natural ones that just flow.
If I was watching that every week, it'd be painful. And I've got to say, the other thing that really came out of the game was how quiet Millwall were. The only time you heard from them was when they scored both the goals. And other than that, it was deathly quiet, apart from the usual lunatics just flicking the V's and making other gesticulations of the type you might expect from them. But it's just very childish and done by men who perhaps should know a little bit better. And
I was reading up a bit on Millwall and why their fans are the way they are, and apparently it all harks back to the days when they're all from the dock area, isn't it? Millwall, the Isle of Dogs, etc. And it all harks back from that. But those days are gone, aren't they? There's no docks there. There's just yuppies and city traders and tech people.
I know. I used to work in London in the late 80s, and actually I was working on this building site, and all the lads there were Millwall fans, and they said, "Oh, come to the game tonight," and I said, "Oh no, I'm not coming." And it was Millwall Luton, which was the infamous game when it led to them being banned from everywhere, and Luton bringing in the ID cards and the full. But they were right horrible lot. But yeah, they're all like. But you're in a stand, and some of them just spent all game gesticulating at you, and you think, "What? Why don't watch the game? Well, they're not watching it."
Maybe it's because they've got such a shite team. They're doing that.
Well, and honestly, the atmosphere was. It was literally probably the worst atmosphere I've known at any match. We were okay. We weren't as loud as we were at Bournemouth. The drum wasn't there.
The design of the stadium doesn't help either, does it? 'Cause there's four unfilled corners. It's a bit kind of tin potty the ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit like Sam Stadium at Oxford.
Yeah. It was a good, reasonable effort by, but not quite the carnival atmosphere we had at Bournemouth. It was a slightly different clientele in the home ends, I think, which didn't help. And where it was all fun, and you could talk to the Bournemouth fans, and they were congratulating you on your support and the way we played at the end. You're not going to get any of that from Millwall, are you?
Let's talk about the winner. It's an easily preventable goal, and it's yet another goal conceded from a set piece. It's happened far too often this season, and it's a worrying trend.
Yeah, and it was sort of tragic because they'd played so well and they'd showed so much spirit, and then it was just, if I remember rightly, it came in from one side. I think Keogh flicked it away, and then it came back in, and almost uncontested, they scored, and it just seemed such a weak way to end that. And I don't want to. I don't want to go through I can't go through the fine tooth comb and tell you whose exact fault it was, and I don't really want to, because I felt like they'd put in such a shift that it's kind of not fair to pick up that 1 point. But yeah, that general trend that we don't look. I think what we hoped was coming out of League One was maybe we wouldn't need, we struggled against some of the more streetwise teams, if you like, and that we'd get less of that. We'd get more, more football on the ground, and we'd sort of more be able to play our own game, and, whoever was the best football team would win. But we haven't seen that, actually, have we? I think really only Coventry have really impressed me on a footballing level, and Bournemouth, to be fair, we're good at football. But there has been more industrial football than we expected, and more.
It's probably a good thing, that, though, isn't it?
Yeah. To want it, there's not that much to be scared of on that level. But yeah, we have looked small. I don't think it's just defensively. We have looked physically small, and that's difficult, because you can't coach that out of players, can you? Unless you put sort of paint cans on the feet or something, you can't really solve that. And I think on the ref, again, there was a shout that there might have been a foul on Keogh or Marvin, whoever flicked it away, there was a shout for a foul there, and then there was a shout for offside for the goal. I think if I'm right,
it was Keogh who got his head to it. I think, from what I could see. But there was three of them lined. I think what we've done is we've the corners come in from their left, doesn't it? And we've cleared the ball, and we've all thought, oh, we've got it clear, and we've switched off, and the ball comes straight. He hits it to the guy, hits it straight back in first touch. And there was about 3 or 4, if not 4 of them, lining up to put it in the back of the net. None of them were marked. So you've got to look at the whole team and say, you haven't switched on for the second phase of play, have you? We've dealt with the first, dealt with it really well, to be fair, Keogh. And then we've just like undone all our good work with just like a bit of sloppiness, really. So it's quite frustrating, but I've got to say, I think we're getting undone by that type of team, a little bit like we did with Gillingham last year. And they're playing to a system, they're playing percentages, they're playing not very attractive, but quite effective football. And we've got to learn how to deal with that. We've got to learn how to deal with it better. We've either got to take teams on and put the game beyond doubt, or we've got to get some bigger players.
Well, they were that classic League One side that was sort of 10 units and one good player, or 9 units outfield and one good player. The lad, was it Wallace, the lad who scored the free kick? He looked really handy, and everybody else was just a bit of a lump and a physical presence. And it was just like that League One team we struggled against last year on a different level, wasn't it?
I mean, I've only seen the highlights, but it looked like at least 2 of them were offside. I mean, you don't get a great angle from it, but it looked like we'd stepped up, and there was 2 or 3 of them, were offside. But obviously, you've still got to defend it, haven't you? But it did look offside.
I'm not. I don't know, Nick. It's like you say, it should be defended. They shouldn't be relying on the offside trap there. As Tim said, they've got 4 players, and just not picked up. And I think we do need to get better from this second phase of play, because it has happened several times this season. But Dave Walsh has just put there, Tim, a player like Dan Ballard, maybe he's dealing with that, and it's just a shame we didn't have him. And what was Ballard's reaction at all to the Blackpool fans? Was he acknowledged?
Yeah, he did. I must admit, we dashed straight off, but I understand that he came over just so he'd get the train. But I believe he came over and acknowledged, clapped the Blackpool fans and acknowledged them. So. He's a nice lad. Listen, Ballard's a nice guy and he's a good footballer. I look at it. I'm not going to criticise. We've dealt with the corner and then everybody's switched off. It's not one. And it's just a bit frustrating, really. Frustrating for them more than anything else, because they didn't deserve to lose that game 2-1 after all the effort that had been put in. And it's just a bit disappointing that right at the end, I wouldn't care. I did like the prophet of doom on it. Just as they're about to take the free kick, I said, they're going to score in a minute. It's coming, in it. And of course, the free kick goes in. And then I jokingly said to the guy I was watching the game with, and you know what's going to happen now. They'll get the winner in the 89th minute. And of course, I should have put a few princely pounds on that, I think, because it proved rather prophetic. So
I think the other talking point, and not to want to drag this game out too long, but I think the other talking point was how well did the subs serve us? Because I think you can maybe criticise the defending on that goal, but I think the problem was once we'd lost Lavery up front, we just weren't. The ball just wasn't sticking, and that like Tim was saying, it was coming. The ball, we stopped functioning. We did so well with 10 men to be actually probably the better attacking presence in the game, and to sort of, I think Critch gets a lot of credit for not, reverting into our shell and not bringing on an extra midfielder and actually sort of leaving the attacking threat on. And we stuck with that, but I think once Lavery went off and CJ came on, we really didn't keep the ball at all.
Yeah, it's worse, and that's because we took Yates off as well. And it's a good point, and I'd written down to make, because we were saying to the time, you've stuck CJ on, who can't trap a bag of cement for us at the moment, and you've taken off the 2 players who will hold the ball up for us and take the pressure off. And all that happened during that period, probably 10, 15 minutes towards the end, was the ball just kept coming back.
The inevitable happens, Tim, when that happens, doesn't it? The inevitable happens when that happens.
Because, to be fair, Keshi was still doing his bit to try and keep possession. But, then we take Bowler off, who's another one who can keep the ball for us. So we've taken 3 players off who actually will take pressure off. and put a player on who, you know, to be fair to CJ, is low on confidence, but he's not he's not ostensibly an out-and-out striker, is he? And he's never going to be that. I know what Critch is thinking. He's thinking if he gets a one-on-one, he's going to use his pace and get through. And maybe Lavery and maybe Yates were knackered, but I'd rather have a knackered Yates on trying to hold the ball up than a fresh CJ trying to hold the ball up, personally. That was to be honest, I think that was a tactical mistake.
I don't think the three of them are great options for holding the ball up, to be honest. And the obvious man for that job is Gary Medine, and he's always injured, isn't he? I mean, as you said, Tim, pre-season, you'd be very surprised if he did re-sign, if he's been offered another deal. But it's worrying, A, the amount of time he is out injured, and B, the fact that we don't have this option without him to hold the ball up. So maybe that's something we should be looking at in this transfer window. What we're on now, 8:30. So I'm hoping we get the likes of Ellis Sims or a big target man in within the next 2.5 hours. Because Nick, I think that's an option we do need to have.
Yeah,
in this team,
I think I said, I can't remember, was it against Cardiff? Maybe. I think there's been a few games where you've thought we need a bit of Gary Medine up front, you know, for the ball to stick and just give them a bit of their own medicine. And I don't know how far away off he is. We don't seem to get updates when it's Medine, do we? So not really sure. But if it's going to be, you know, a significant period of time, it is something we probably need to look at. But looking at the clock, I've seen on the comments there, it's gone now. I think we'd put Matt Scrafton's tweeted, we'd put a bid in for a lad at MK Dons, a midfielder, which has been, there you go. I believe it's been knocked back. So I don't know how many are on that list of midfielders, but, you know, we might be running out of options there. So
interesting. I saw Brett Geraghty on the train. I had a bit of a chat with him before we got on the train to London, and he was talking about how focused Critchley is on who he wants, and he probably can be quite stubborn about what he wants as well. So when he's got a player he wants that player. And yeah, I'm not saying he doesn't have other options, but I think we've probably seen with what we've done this so far this season that he'd rather wait and get the right player in. It's almost like a Klopp mentality. Klopp did it with Alisson, didn't he, with his keeper? He'd rather go without than get the wrong one in. And interestingly, apparently the first three players he wanted were it was Ekpiteta, CJ, and who was the other one? And Yates. They were the three players he really wanted, and you know, and he already knew that when he came to the club. It wasn't. There was no scattergun approach about it. He knew exactly what he wanted to start forming the basis of his team, and I think we've probably seen a little bit of that now as well. I think he knows what he wants, and I don't think he's up for compromising.
Well, I think we've seen that with the right back situation, haven't we?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, we've
seen that, wait until today. But then the flip of it is, I suppose, you don't want to leave yourself short, you know, for the sake of it at the same time, do you? I think we do need probably another in midfield at least.
Christian's made a good point. You know, we knew Medine needed an operation. He's not going to be, you know, we've offered him a 1 deal, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. But if he's out to the new year, what's the point in offering him a 1 year deal? It just seems, particularly on the wages, is likely to be on, unless he's obviously taken a big cut.
I don't know with that, because I think if if Medine's back mid-September, late September, and you get 37, 38 games out of a properly fit Medine, I think that is a really high quality player. And I think that he, at times last year, he impressed me as much as any striker who played against us, in, you know, albeit a small sample size. If you remember back to his last game, and I know it was Wigan, I know they were in absolute shambles, but he just bossed that game. He looked a division and a half higher than the rest of the team. He was superb, and I think if we can get 35 games out of him, it's a gamble worth taking. The thing that
I don't 100% agree with you there, by the way.
No, I would. Yeah,
the thing that slightly frustrates me at times is that Critchley seems to have this very rigid hierarchy of sort of who's ready and who's not, and who's in the squad and who's not. And we went into that game without a striker on the bench. And I know Banj is at Bamber Bridge, and there's Brad Holmes. And I know those players aren't ready, but I feel like almost anybody with a bit of physical strength, with a bit of, would have maybe done a better job holding it up than CJ. And I don't want to slate CJ, but he looks like a ghost of the player last year. He looks, you on the pod last year, you used to sort of laugh at Sully's twin. But CJ looks like Sully's, I don't know, somebody impersonating Sully's knockoff illegitimate brother. He really doesn't look like the player. And I've seen twice on the touchline Critch, who is very calm, screaming at him. Critch never screams at players, does he? Critch is getting frustrated with him, but yet he's not. I don't know. I think Medine could yet prove to be an under the radar masterstroke by the club. Maybe that's optimism, but
and he has got championship experience, doesn't he?
He does,
yeah. And if he is fit, then he's got a massive part to play. And hopefully, if it is September, then that's great news, and we can hopefully get a midfielder in the next. What are we now? 2 and a bit hours.
It's that thing. If he's fully fit, he's quality. I think we've seen him carrying injuries at Blackpool pretty much all the time. And
that's interesting from Steve Hutchin, isn't it? Because he's saying that on the previous show he'd suggest he might be back in September. So and we've got a week off now, haven't we? So it's going to be we're heading towards what is it, about the 7th? No, it's later than that, and it's about the 10th, 11th of September before we play again. So let's hope that's factored into the decision making at the club, and we're actually going to see him play. Bison's comment is a fair one. I don't think we'll get anything like 30 odd games out of him. I just don't. I think he's
20. Got
too many injuries, isn't he? He just seems to be one of those players, a little bit like Stewart, who you're never going to get full season out of. You'll get half if you're lucky.
An alternative view from Cliff Smith. I said at the back end of last season, Medine was yesterday's man. I've seen nothing to make me change my opinion. Well, Cliff.
We haven't seen him, have we?
We've actually seen him, so read. I think it's a bit harsh to talk him down, considering he's not played in the game. If he's been playing for 6 games, he's been shy. I could sort of see where you're coming from there. But we talked about the lack of options in midfield, but this player seemed to pass things by. He's not been mentioned. Ryan Wintle signed on loan from Cardiff. 24-year-old midfielder, 186 appearances for Crewe. Nick, no one's mentioned him, so maybe he's the missing piece in this midfield jigsaw if we don't land Cameron Brannigan. And because we're not signing on deadline day, it's kind of been forgotten, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has gone under the radar a bit, hasn't it? He's a holding midfielder, though, from what I understand. So I still think, that's great when you look at, we've got the injuries that we've got at the moment. I think Ward, who knows how long that's going to be. You're probably looking at, with Achilles,
a long time.
Probably 6-8 months, isn't it? If maybe not even the season sometimes with that sort of injury. So we'll see, whether he can make the step up. But if he's a holding midfielder, I still think we need something in the creativity department as well, probably.
Or in the all-action midfielder department, as Steve Hutchin is classifying.
Yeah, I was just looking at me well-prepared notes here. Let's see how many he scored. I think it was something like 9 goals he scored. So, yeah, I still think we probably need another in the midfield.
I think we were talking in the green room before, weren't we, that perhaps he's more cover for Stewart and Dougal. Stewart in particular seems to be another one who spends a lot of time on the treatment table. And maybe it's just a bit of bad luck, but sometimes you do get those players, don't you? It's just the way they play that they open themselves up perhaps for more injuries than others. And if we do need covering there, and with Ward out likely for the season, we need another option, because we're not going to get, in reality, we're not going to get 40 games out of Stewart either.
We need a KDH type player, as we've talked about on in the past, and he was on Match of the Day, wasn't he? He's been tearing it up for Leicester now, so that's obviously not going to go in the cards.
Interesting. I was just had a quick look at Brannigan, and I hadn't realised he'd originally come from Liverpool. So Critchley will know him extremely well, won't he? So whether he's on the phone to Simon at the moment, badgering him to up his offer for him, we'll have to see. But I suspect that's, he clearly knows that player inside out. And it wouldn't surprise me if we still see some movement between now and 11 o'clock.
Sean's just said ship out CJ on loan. Let's not remember that he's done another miss in the game. I've just remembered in highlights that when he blazed it wide.
Yeah,
it's reminiscent of that home game against Sunderland when he's done exactly the same. So I think
it almost worked. It almost worked. I mean, I've sort of picked it as the point the game went wrong, but it almost worked because he got slipped twice within about 2 minutes when he came on. He blasted one wide, and then the other one he did that thing that he keeps doing this year. He's just sort of running into the fullback and not. He doesn't seem to even attempt to push the ball past him or do a trick. He just kind of runs in and gives up, which is it's quite sad to see, really, because.
Is it a confidence thing? Is he still carrying an injury? Is he scared of committing because of this injury? It's a strange one, isn't it?
It could be a bit of both, doesn't it? It's maybe not a bad. I mean, it's early days, isn't it? So we maybe need to wait and see. But if you remember Matt Phillips, he was struggling a bit, wasn't he? And went out to Sheffield United, wasn't it? And he just came back a different player, didn't he? And didn't look back. He was amazing. So. Yeah, I suppose we'll see at the end of the window. I mean, in terms of other people going out, there's probably, I'm surprised we've not seen one or two of the, I won't even say fringe players because they're nowhere near the squad, are they? But, the likes
the
of
shit players, Nick. Call them that. Call them the shit players.
Maybe nobody wants them, I don't know. But I thought we might have seen a couple of outgoings today as well.
Sean just mentions Brandon Barker there, Tim. If you recall, he was the winger that kind of terrorised us a bit in the Oxford games. He's a player that really, really caught my eye. So it's not a bad shout, that is it? Get CJ out, get him back down to League One, get him firing again, and let's bring the likes of Brandon Barker in.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to, we've got Bowler, and he's exceptional. If we get, it's how I've got to say, the more I see of Keshi, the more I think he potentially could play that attacking midfield role if we set the team up in a way that benefits him, and because he seems almost telepathic with Yates sometimes, and but we need options, don't we?
We need him at the tip of the diamond, don't we? We've said this before. We don't want him out on the left. We don't want to waste him like we did with Chai.
He might as well not play me if you could put him out on the left for me. I mean, that's a bit harsh because he'll do a job for you, but you're not getting anything like the amount of contribution out of him as you would do when you play him in the centre. It's just different player. Completely different player.
What hugely impressed me about Kesh was the way he played in the midfield 4. He wasn't even a 10. He was just part of a 2 in midfield, wasn't he? When you break it down, so Bowler one flank, Jerry had come back on the other flank, and then Dougal and Keshi, and he played like a sort of a 6 and a 10 at the same time. I thought he was absolutely superb. I really, really did, and I'm starting to come round to that view that he needs to play in the middle, which, Brandon Barker would be great for the left.
A lot of the listeners are agreeing Keshi is the man when he's in the number 10. Just worry. Wit, what, Sean? Just worry with our intensity and lack of rotation options.
Scottish dialect he's got there, something. What he wet. It's his roots.
Okay, it's transfer deadline day, so let's move on to our actual signings. Now, they did come in very early this morning, which we expected a deluge of new signings. It didn't happen though, Nick, did it? But 2 very good players signing nonetheless. Dujon Sterling, I believe, is that pronounced correctly?
Yes, I believe he's mustard. No, 21-year-old from Chelsea.
Is that spelt right?
I think it is, yes.
Looks a big old unit.
He does. He looks an athlete, doesn't he? And we needed a right back, didn't we? And then like buses 2 come along at once. Got league experience. I think he's had loans with Coventry and Wigan. Just signed a longer term deal with Chelsea as well. And I believe he featured quite heavily in pre-season. So you'd think they see him as maybe one who can, break into the first team at some point, and Blackpool's the ideal place to send him to to develop him to the next level. So it's going to be interesting with Gabriel coming in as well, what he does in terms of who plays or whether they'll both play. But yeah, looks a unit, definitely.
Mitch, your thoughts on Dujon there?
Well, he's a right back, isn't he? That's as much as I can say. I'm delighted we've got a right back. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about him. I don't watch academy football or anything. I had a little look at his stats, and he looks, they are the kind of stats you'd expect from a right back. He gets plenty of tackles in, lots of interceptions. He doesn't look as flying wing backy from his stats alone. But then when I actually saw him physically, he doesn't look very flying wing backy either, does he? He looks more like an American football player than a
linebacker.
Yes, he does. And I think that's good, isn't it? Because we've just been talking about us getting a little bit physically undone, whether he can play. I've heard a bit that he's quite versatile. I don't know whether he can play centre-half, but I've heard he can play a bit of midfield, whether it's right midfield or centre midfield, I don't know. But, a player with Premier League pedigree and a bit of physicality will not go amiss in this side, I don't think.
He's no Ollie Turton, though, is he?
Well, no. Looks like he's had a few takeaways, to be fair, though, doesn't he?
Of pure protein, though.
Mm.
Not the normal shite that we eat at the end of a night out around PLF. Hey, Tim. Right,
Speak for yourself, John. I mean,
are you still on your mega expensive diet meals?
No. Well, I'm going again, but I've been on a holiday last week and whatever. I've just had a couple of weeks off, so I do need to get back on the treadmill, so to speak.
So we've got a few listeners' comments, and do let us know what you think of Dujon. Sterling, Josh has said, being trusted with Prem youth seems weird. We're getting loans from League One even in our Prem season. Dave Walsh, my Wigan sporting mate, said this about Sterling. Dujon Sterling is a poor signing, mate. Couldn't get anywhere near our 11. That's a bit worrying, isn't it? Considering Wigan were shite last season.
He was there. He was there the season before last, so he'd only been 19 when he was there. He wasn't there last year.
I think he had 38 appearances for Coventry, didn't he? So, we'll find out, won't we? We'll see.
It's got that's Coventry last season as well, is it?
Yeah. No, I think he was Coventry.
I thought he was Wigan I thought he was Wigan in 1920.
Wigan 1920, Coventry 1819.
Yeah, so he's had a season just in Chelsea Academy or injured or whatever, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So that's the Coventry team that got promoted, wasn't it, from League One? So I think, if I got my years right, so that would be, I'd see that as a positive if he's holding down a place in that team.
Yeah, and I think he's a young guy in. I think he's only going to get better. So we've talked about getting a couple of loans in from Premier teams, and he fits the bill for me. So looking forward to seeing him play.
Definitely. I think the point is, I think there's a big difference between 19 and 21 in a player's development, isn't there? If he was, struggle at Wigan a bit when he was 19, don't mean he's going to struggle when he's 21 and, sort of 2 years later. I don't like
with Critchley coaching him as well,
Well, yeah. It's Wigan, innit? I don't like Wigan.
So do we think that this is going to be? Obviously, let's bring up Jordan Gabriel now. So, fantastic news this morning coming out of Who's in the Box. Jordan Gabriel was in the box. Hilarious piece of marketing from the media team. So that gets a Jerry Yates thumbs up from me. I thought that was fucking hilarious. So well done, boys, on that.
I think it's almost symptomatic of Gabriel, isn't it? I mean, it was what it was, but he just is so up for it, and he isn't the perfect footballer. There are some players in the world who are better than him, but I am so happy he's here because he just gives absolutely everything. He looks like he loves it. He's part of the team and the group and everything I said early on about the team spirit being the thing that's really impressed me.
Just to put in, Mitch, sorry, very quickly. I just loved his celebration at Wembley when we won the game. The fact that he didn't play at all, did he, in that game? He wasn't a star. He wasn't the starting. I loved that reaction from him.
And if somebody says, right, get in a box and we're going to take a picture, and plenty of players would have been like, oh no, they'd be far too cool for it, and he's just up for it. He's ace. I think he's up to get it right back. No, I just like him.
I think the other encouraging thing is, I know Forest have had a little bit of a poor start to the season, but he's been getting rave reviews in Forest's first team as well, hasn't he? So I know Forest have brought some different players in, but it's not like he's been languishing in their reserves either. So that he clearly he's started the season well, and he shouldn't therefore hopefully need the month that everybody seems to take to get themselves up to match fitness. He should be able to slot straight in.
It's like you say, Tim. A, he's match fit, and B, he doesn't need to integrate into the team, does he? Because the majority of those players are still there.
And he's the right age as well. He's probably got his best years ahead of him. And I think if he continues to develop, we've shelled out a decent amount of money for Blackpool, and how much we pay for transfer fees. And I think you've potentially got a player there. If he does keep developing, we could be worth several times what we've paid for him in a season or two.
Sean said he got himself sent off. Does that mean he's not eligible for the first game? Please say it's not so, Sean.
He did get sent off, yeah.
Oh, God. So we might be waiting a little while to see him then.
So just a few people in the comments saying, I'm glad I'm where I'm wanted in the tweet. So a very slight dig at Notts Forest, I guess, on his way out.
Well, I suppose if he knows that they're trying to recruit right backs, even though he's starting and apparently getting plaudits for the way he's playing, then you are going to sort of think, well, they can't really want me. They don't really rate me. And obviously, I think he's loved by, I think he made a point, didn't he, about all the comments he's had from Blackpool fans. He's clearly the Twitterati have been at him, haven't they? Come and join us. And Bison says he's service bound, which thanks to that, Bison. I'm glad about that.
I think it's mainly been Jordan Hayes who's been crucial in this transfer.
Can someone tell me what this was? I've kind of missed it. Give us the backstory in it.
I think he was tweeting him a lot, and he was tweeting. Who was the other one he was trying to get? Ballard as well.
Mum.
And he was trying to get him back.
Ballard's mum, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it paid off anyway.
And
the other thing to mention on this,
who's not bad, Jordan.
Yeah. The other thing to mention on this is a 4-year deal plus 1 year option. It's
when does that ever happen to us when we sign players?
I'm not sure it ever has before, has it? It's that's a real statement of intent by Mr. Sadler as well.
I think we signed Nussel on a 4-year plus 1, didn't we? So hopefully that's not going to be actually, to be fair, I think that was a 3 plus 1, if I remember. But that's a real statement of intent, isn't it? Not guilty, my lord.
Yeah, that's your fault, Tim.
It was around your time, Tim. It was around your time.
It was Sam Sadler's first signing, I'll have you know. Second, actually,
behind advice from the advisor to the board.
No advice from advisor to the board. You're not pinning this one on me.
No wonder they sacked him. Only joking, Tim. Only joking. I know that the executive box board game's coming up.
You got till February, John, so you can block your copybook a few times before then.
Right, so these two signings. So we've got Gabriel and we've got Sterling. For me, Gabriel's the starter and Sterling's the reserve. How do you think this is going to pan out?
We'll see. I mean, Sean's mentioned there. I don't know if you can get the comment up. 2 right backs are for different formations, so we'll see. Obviously, like you say, Gabriel knows the club, has played for us, so doesn't really need to integrate. Has already played in the Championship this season, so he's probably the more likely starter, you would say.
But as Sean said there, he's probably right, isn't he? Sterling in a 4, Gabriel in a 3. Sterling's probably more your traditional.
If you think back to last season, we had Critch mixing up Turton and Gabriel, depending on how we were playing, didn't it? And who were playing.
Who we were playing as well.
So if we were going away from home and we were, likely to face an onslaught, then he's more likely to slot might slot Sterling in on the basis he's a more of a Turton style, bigger player who's going to get his head in there. And then, when we're at home and we're going at it, then play Jordan. Don't know, but I can't think that Sterling's come here not to be involved.
Yeah, to sit on the bench.
Well, you wouldn't, would you? You're coming from Chelsea Academy and you're in their plans. You wouldn't.
No, so I think there is there may be something in what Sean's saying. I think because we saw it last season, so it'll be horses for courses, won't it?
Okay, let's move on to Cameron Brannigan. The move that hasn't happened as yet. Tim, he was a player that impressed quite a few of us for Oxford. Maybe one of their best players, isn't it? He'd be a decent acquisition.
I mean,
it doesn't look like it's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that's Critchley's number one target. So as I said, it wouldn't surprise me if he's doing the equivalent of Ian Holloway on the phone to Riga. Please sign Charlie Adam with Simon as we speak. Hopefully he is. And hopefully he's able to persuade Simon to push the boat out, because it sounds like we're going to have to do it to land the man. If the reported rumours have any basis, and we've seen plenty today. There was that fake Twitter account, wasn't there, that suggested he'd signed, and there was all sorts of rumours about him being at the club when he clearly wasn't. So. But the fact that he's clearly played under Critchley before, and Critchley will know him from the Liverpool days, will I think suggest he's high on his list of priorities. And
there you go, Parsons. 2 N's corrected.
You still spent it wrong. It's Brannagagan.
Yeah. Go on, get the thesaurus out, Bison.
So we're talking about a player who's not signing, whose name you can't spell right.
Quality control.
It's better than Sky Sports. This
is the kind of player that we do need, though, isn't it? Joking aside,
yes.
Massively so. Massive. We need a goal scoring midfielder, and from what we know, he's box to box. Is the KDH replacement, hopefully, that we never quite had last season. Quite how he ties in with Keshi, playing the role that Keshi plays. We'd have to see how we set up, but it looks like it looks and feels like the right type of signing, doesn't it?
But Carl Robinson has come out in the press, hasn't he, saying it's not happening, and that's made it onto the Blackpool Gazette now. So it looks like it's dead in the water.
Pity.
Sean's just said wants to pay it purely to make Carl Robinson look like a tit. Saying he's staying. That would be good, wouldn't it? Come on, Simon.
There was talk they had a release clause at $1.5 million, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't think anybody actually knows what the amount is. There's been different figures banded about. I mean, you'd assume we're chucking Thornley into the deal and then cash on top, aren't we? And depending on what we're valuing Thornley at, I don't know.
Million,
400k maybe, $500,000 if we're pushing it. Yeah, $1.5 million straight swap. But I dare say we've put a significant bid in. It's just, I suppose, how far short we are, and there does come a point, there doesn't there, where you've probably got to say we draw the line at it. We had bids in, didn't we, for a couple of other players, or there was rumours of the lad at Crewe, $500,000, Owen Dale, is it, and Josh Vella at Shrewsbury as well. So whether they're fallback options, that we're now pursuing, I don't know, or whether they're dead in the water, I suppose we'll find out in the next couple of hours.
I think the thing is that, just going back to what Tim was saying before about how does he fit in with Keshi, I think the worry is that with Wintle in, we've got Dougal, Stewart, Wintle, all can play that sort of anchor role under the hard tackling midfielder type role. But really, if Keshi gets a knock, who the hell is going to create anything for us? I mean, yes, bowler, but he's wide. I can't see him going through the middle. Same with Mitchell. I can't see Mitchell going through the middle, and that's a concern. I think particularly while currently we only have 2 quite small forwards, so you would feel that with 2 quite small forwards, you've got to have somebody who can pick a pass in the middle, and I think that's. I made a comment before on Twitter that I think we're just about there if everybody's fit. And that's the big if, isn't it? And it's the thing it's never going to happen. It hasn't happened for 12 months that we've had everybody fit, and I can't see it happening anytime soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if we pulled somebody else out in that mould, if not Brannigan. You'd think Critch would have gone back to use academy contacts or whatever to get, if he wants Brannigan, then he'll go back and get somebody for 3 or 4 months and maybe go back in for him.
Josh is making a good point. John Jules might be able to fulfill that Keshi role. I mean, he can pick out a pass, can't he? And I've been quite. I didn't warm to him originally when he signed, but when you go back and analyse the game afterwards, you see he's always there and he's always making a contribution.
About, doesn't he?
He reminds me so much of Kai when he in the sense that. People get on his back, and I'm watching him going, that was actually quite good what he did then. And he's got the same weakness as Kai, as he tends to stand off and watch the play a little bit. But at the same time, he seems to be that player that just threads that little ball or that key pass. And what he does is very good. What I will say is that I like him on the left. I thought when I've seen him on the left, I thought he's really sort of impacted on the game there. And he almost looks better when he's not in the hurly-burly of traffic, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe he is a shout for that role.
So the name's cropped up, Mitchell, in the conversation we've just had, and Sean Boothie has just said that all Mitchell's still to return, and we've got enough attacking options to see us through to January at least. So providing what's the Mitchell situation? Anyone got any memories of when he's back?
It's a good question.
Could solve the problem.
I didn't get the impression he was a long-term injury. No. So you'd expect him to be thereabouts. And it's a good point about somebody's mentioning about us maybe going back in for Brannigan in January. I think Critchley he's quite dogged in his approach sometimes about who he wants. And if it means wait until January and having another go then it wouldn't surprise me to see that actually happen. And you do sometimes, you have to take your time and bide your time. And if you're telling that player that you really, really want him and you keep going back, then hopefully something cracks at the end of the day.
What's the bing that keeps going off? Has someone got some news? I'm expecting.
No, it's me. It's me, I think. But I thought I'd put my WhatsApp notifications on silent, and it. Yeah, let me have another go with it. I'm expecting
some news because I can't monitor my Twitter feed while I'm doing this.
I keep checking my phone. I'm sure it'll come up on the comments. I mean, that's a good shout there from Bisons if Mitchell is back for Fulham. And, like you've said, if it's a case of waiting to get the right man rather than rushing and get the wrong one, then it might be worth waiting till January, and maybe we get somebody on loan until then to plug the gap until we can go back in for him.
So my next question to ask the room is, 2 questions. A, are you happy with the business thus far? And B, how short are we? Because I've just looked at Bison's comment now, and he said we don't have enough goals in this team. Is that fair comment?
Is it me, or is Bison's even more negative tonight than he normally is? It's I mean, listen, you don't always get every target you go after, do you? But it just seems to me, I think, we've done some good business today. We've done some good business throughout this transfer window. And I think sometimes you've got to cut the club and the management team a bit of slack. And, if some things don't happen, they don't happen. We're not the first team it's happened to. We won't be the last. But
I think with Mitchell back, I think we're all right.
Yeah, and I forgot Sonny Carey, who maybe isn't ready. I'd wiped him from my mind when I thought we had no more attacking midfield players, and we clearly do have one. So there's him as well.
My mind's going to what Nick's just said, in that, Critchley, or it might be new to him, said Critchley is dogged for who he wants, and he'd rather have the right player than just bringing in, the likes of Nuttall or the likes of Sarchich or...
I think it's drilled into them at Liverpool, isn't it? That you don't compromise on who you want and accept something less than what you see as being the right player for the team. And I said we've seen it with the right back. We've lumbered through 5 games with basically slightly. It's like sending somebody. It's like sending a team out with somebody with a strapped up ankle, isn't it? We've basically bandaged over the right back spot to make sure that we wait and we get the ones that we want. And I think over a 46 game season, that'll prove to be the right decision. And I buy into that, to be honest. And I just think that if it doesn't happen tonight, I just think he will wait.
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, is it?
No. And I think to be honest, the way we're in a slightly false position at the moment, and and I hear the criticism from Bisons again that where our goals coming from, but I look at who we've played and how we've been undone a couple of times, and I think we've been a little bit unlucky in some respects. And I think as the team starts to knit and we find our feet in the Championship, we will start to pick up results. And I know we're better than Preston, despite all their the knobbers singing Blackpool get battered everywhere they go, all over Twitter on Saturday night. I got it sent to me on more than one occasion. But the reality is that we'll be above them at the end of the season. I have no shadow of a doubt in my mind that we'll be above them. So,
and the thing is, we haven't, we've not been battered in games, have we? We've been on the wrong end of results, but we're not shipping 4 or 5 goals, are we? And being out of it, even when we're 2-0 down at Bournemouth, we showed what we can do against, arguably one of the best sides in the division. So get a couple back from
90 million
injury.
pound team they had, Nick. 90 million pound
Yeah,
team.
and that's the thing. Most teams we come up against will probably have a player who costs more than most of our squad put together. So get a couple back from injury, and we'll see how we go. I think the main thing we would all have said at the start of today was getting a right back in, and we've got 2 in. So that was the main priority for me. If we can get another in now before the end of the window, then great. But if not, I don't think it's the end of the world.
Mitch, you happy with our dealings?
I tell you what,
if it slams shut without any players being added?
I put the defence down, the defenders we've got down on a piece of paper before, because that's how I have fun. And I just thought what an incredible backline it is. In theory, we've got 9 quality players in Richard Keogh, who I think would do a very good job in the right back line. I still think we maybe need one more bit of magic attacking. We pick a pass kind of player, or I think one more, and I'd be very happy. But we've got 2 right backs, and I don't really agree necessarily with what Bison's put before. I don't know if you put it up before about how having a right back wouldn't have made any difference in the previous games. I think that I've said this before, but I think that the fluidity of our side has been severely impacted by having a makeshift right back in it. Because I think when you're playing out of position, I made this analogy the other day, when you're playing out of position, it's like when you drive your mate's car and you drive it so much more carefully than you do your own. You kind of throw your own round and just drive it with instinct. And when you drive your mate's car, you're being really careful. I think that's what playing out of position is, and that's what Connolly has reminded me of. And I think, one more loan in, I'd be happy if we can't get someone like Brannigan.
It's a great analogy, that, to be fair, that you just thrown in there. And I think you can see it, can't you? You play within yourself because you're not. I think, you're conscious that you don't want to make that mistake, just like you don't want to crash your mate's car. And
that's the other thing as well. Putting Connolly in his right position as well.
Yeah.
We'll see what a player he is.
Yeah. That back 5 that we've talked about being a possibility for games, with Marvin in the middle, Connolly on one side, and either husband or ideally Viking on the other. That's a superb back 3. And then Garbutt getting further forward, or James, who played well against Millwall. He really did look good against Millwall. I've not mentioned that. And he was on the wrong side. So him or Garbs on the other side, and then Gabriel or the new lad belting down the other side. That suddenly looks that sounds really exciting.
A lot more balanced, isn't it?
As you've just mentioned, Mitch, Garbett has been a bit hamstrung, hasn't he, by playing in a traditional left-back role, and now he can bomb forward, and that opens up all sorts of possibilities.
Well, we've got a problem. We've got a problem on the left-hand side, and one of the obvious answers is to move him further forward, isn't it? Because he's again is another proven Championship player, and you can then whether it's in a back three, and if you're doing a back four, you can just push Husband out there and play Garbett further up the pitch, where he can be more effective, and you haven't got the same defensive frailties.
He's absolutely miles ahead in for successful key passes. If you look at the stats, we've been saying we need that player to thread the pass to hit that right ball, and maybe we've got him at left back if we push him up the pitch. You get that that quality delivery, not just whipping it in, but just his general quality of knocking it about. So yeah.
Can we get Bison on some happy pills or something? Can we buy some out of Patreon, folks? Jesus Christ. Every comment.
Do you want us to get you some Gary's Bisons?
It's like one of them things on Harry Potter. I don't know what they're called, but, that suck the life out of you.
Suck your boss. Right, gents, I think we'll leave it there. I think we've had a good deadline day, haven't we? Has anyone got any just closing
Sky
thoughts?
Sports News on now, can't we? Till 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of hours to go.
Just before we go, then we had an open training session, didn't we, on Monday? A good example of fan engagement from the club. Oh, in fact, I had a bit of a gag. Oh, it's just getting a bit hot in here, so.
Somebody get that tumbleweed sound effect ready.
What's he pointing at?
He's fine. This is only working, by the way. If you're watching it, if you're listening, you're wondering what the hell's going on. It's not meant for
radio, this gag, is it?
This isn't better than the radio, John.
Right, John, can you just press the
fan engagement?
Can you just press the tumbleweed sound effect, please?
For the benefit of the audio pod, I have a fan in my room and I've just turned it on in the engaged position. But there you go, Nick. Go on then. Have that. Almost the sound of the fan. I thought it was quite funny, actually. Anyway.
Well, I've got to say what was great I didn't participate. I haven't even seen any coverage of it, but other than photographs and there's loads of kids and there's Jerry there and Maxwell there, looking like they're having a great time as well. And it's great to see, isn't it? And there's nothing better particularly with the younger fans than to get that type of interaction going. And that's what makes Tangerines for the future. And long may that type of engagement continue, because I think it's superb.
Agreed.
I think, I think it's there has been a big debate about, the match day experience and all of that. And I don't want to touch upon that. But I think to me that sort of stuff is more important than whether it's more important than anything else, isn't it? Whether them kids get involved and whether them kids get excited and they feel part of it. Because we've said this many times before, there is a kind of almost like a lost generation of Blackpool fans, and that's probably more important than whether I stand in a queue for 15 minutes to get a pint or not, really, in terms of the future of the club. And hopefully all those things will be fixed, but they clearly are doing stuff, and you can just see it in the social media and everything, can't you? Sorry, Nick, go on.
No, go on. Yeah, that's the type of thing, like you say, that for the next generation, that can be the difference between them wearing a Man United shirt for the rest of their life or a Blackpool shirt, and coming to Blackpool games and being a fan of the hometown team. And it's the best type of thing that the club can do, because it secures your fans for life, doesn't it? If you're a kid going to that and meeting the player, and you walk out of that absolutely buzzing, I want to go to the next game, and then you're hooked, aren't you? So it's vitally important. It's great that they do it.
And another bit of I like that fact we've got the Tower Power badge on the third kit, just for a bit of variety, and quite like that black kit. Actually, I've got to say, I think it looks all right. It's a bit like the blue one last year.
Drawn incorrectly, that Tower Power badge. One of my pet peeves. Yep. As a designer,
you need to elaborate on that. I think, don't you?
Well, if anyone out there wants to Google the Tower Power badge from the 70s, the actual tower has a Bezier curve on it, and it's a lot thicker, whereas the other one just like an arrow. So it bugs me. I think I'm one of the only ones.
I think
it's a bit of a nerdy.
That is a bit nerdy. It's not actually the correct tower design.
It just bugs me. It just doesn't look right. For the next show, I'm going to do a comparison side by side. Can't do it now because we're going. But anyway, this just maybe it's stupid. It's been
just
brilliant to see all these. Go on.
M-Blocks mentioned that training centre development. Now, I heard that Brett Geraghty said there should be an announcement on that coming up in the autumn, and so it's good. I think we're probably going to be told where it's going to be. I've heard, there's a bit of a rumor on Twitter, actually, not Twitter, on AVFTT, that actually sounded like it had a little bit of legs to it, and it could be quite good for us, John. PLF.
Where? There's no land around
there. Well, it's edge of PLF. It's and apparently the people at the academy have been told, if it's true that's been posted, that it might be on that spare land on the left hand side as you drive towards Blackpool. You know, as you drive out of Polton past the caravan park along Garstang Road, there's a huge. It was the old school originally, wasn't it? Is it St Thomas's originally? For those
sounds Shore boy, really though, Tim. So I don't really know.
Yeah, but as you drive, next time you drive towards where Play Football is on the right side, if you remember where it is on a Monday night. Yeah. If you ever come again.
Now my shoulder's all right. I'll be back.
Just look left, and it's actually a surprisingly large piece of undeveloped.
Where those horses are. Where you got those
horses? Behind Collegiate.
It's not behind Collegiate. It's the opposite side of the road to Collegiate.
It's the other side to Collegiate, right?
Yeah. And of course, once which they're well on with now, once they've done the bypass for Singleton and that area at the top of the A585, it'll actually be a really easy run in from the motorway to there as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, get it built there. Superb.
Yeah. So that'd be quite handy.
Field, I've heard Lawson's Field decent there as well.
Lawson's Field's been mentioned. I think it's on a tip there, isn't it? And I think there's also quite a lot of opposition from the people who live around there. So I think because when you have someone on tip, you get a lot of gases under the ground, which can be quite problematic to deal with and get rid of. Because it was a council tip at one stage. So I don't know. I don't know but it's a new one I've never thought about.
Right. Anyway,
we'll see.
Yeah, to be confirmed. That's something to look forward to. Right, gents, we'll call it a day, an hour 17. A good chat this evening. So we'll be coming back. We've obviously got no game, have we? Because the international football. But we've got a nice, easy game in Fulham coming up, but we'll be covering that in the preview show. So thanks for coming on, Mitch.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Pleasure, as always.
Thanks, Timothy.
See you later.
Rainsby says, thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Get us up to 1,000. Rainsby said is up the pool.
Up the pool.
With a great tradition.